Yeah, you can be everything to everyone. But, if you're not authentic, then that's when you can be worrying like, I just lost followers because I did something. But if you're your authentic self, it doesn't matter. Eventually you find your tribe.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Foreign Gems. How are you doing today, Ola?
Pretty good. You got the name right too.
I got it right now.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Buzzing. It's been a great couple of days. How about you?
I'm doing very well myself. I had a pretty good weekend. We're sending off actually one of our friends. He's moving back to the East Coast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we went to Stanley Park and played pitch and putt. Have you ever played pitch and putt?
No.
You played mini putt, right?
Yes.
Like the mini golf thing? So pitch and putt is like between golf and mini golf.
Okay.
So it's like short range holes. Things are like 75 yards like basically 75 meters away. I think the longest one that day was like maybe 100.
Okay.
So it's short. It doesn't take as much time.
Yeah.
And it's nice. Like everyone's around each other. The thing about like golf, I don't know. Like say what you will about the sport itself, but like if you're doing it to hang out, it can be annoying if somebody hits the ball way over there and somebody's way over here. You're not really hanging out anymore.
Yeah.
But because of the short range, you're basically always spending time together,
Okay.
which is nice. So yeah, it was nice to like catch up with him. One of the last times. I think we'll have like one more time before he actually goes back to the East Coast. But yeah, it was good, man.
Nice. We gotta do golf one of these days.
Yeah, I'm down. We should actually do Queen Elizabeth over there is a good one too.
Let's do it.
I'm ready. So, Foreign Gems. What topic are we talking about today?
Yeah, we are talking about personal brand.
Personal brand. I was very happy when you texted me this idea earlier, actually, because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I'm following people just because I like their personal brand now, so I can try and steal some of the things they're doing well, put my own spin on it. But something that's becoming more relevant to me now that I'm like trying to live my life in this alternate fashion. Part of what allows me to get like new clients and things like that is my personal brand. So it's something that's top of mind. So when you reached out, I was like, yeah, I'm down to talk about it. I think it'd be good.
Yeah, because I'm trying to, at least for myself, get us to talk more about things that are actionable to people.
Yeah.
Because I know people, I hope, enjoy hanging out with us.
I hope so too.
But
I like the actionable thing as well. But I think sometimes, funny enough, some of our best content is before and after the podcast.
Yeah,
it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do with this particular podcast. Or maybe we need to do like a side thing that's just like, hanging with Mac and Ola or something. You know?
After hours or whatever.
Yeah, where it doesn't have to be as useful, but it can be entertaining.
Yeah, people can leave feedback. If you're interested in that, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know. It's something that I've thought about that actually a couple of times, because we have like a conversation before, and then I'm like, this would actually make really good content as well. It's just very different from the typical subjects that we talk about. But this is a very good subject to go down.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. It's something that I wouldn't say I'm an expert on. I'm not an expert at all.
Yeah.
But that is my brand.
Not being an expert.
Not being an expert. That is very on brand for me.
Which is nice, because when you also are working on this project, you're still on brand.
Yes.
You're not having to remove yourself from the brand.
Exactly.
We're not experts. We say that pretty much every episode.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I mentioned before, for me, it's something that I'm thinking about a little bit more intentionally with nowadays, because I think your brand actually goes a really long way to giving you options in the future. And some people might resonate with you just because of your personal brand, even though you might not have like a collaboration opportunity at the time. They might not be necessarily interested in what it is like you have to offer at the time, but because of your personal brand, they'd still be interested in who you are as a person and would be interested to follow you and your career as it goes by. And even beyond career, it could just be like, I'm interested in this person just because I like the values that they're representing. I like how they like their approach to certain things, whether it's like media or like content that they're putting out or whatever. Like I think all of those aspects are good to have like intentionality towards, like when you're putting them out into the world, because you never know when it's going to be a good time and a good fit, but also it can act as like a way to amplify your message as well. It's like if this person talks about these things, it gives you that sense of like thought leadership about that particular subject.
Yeah, I totally agree. Your personal brand, in a way, is your living, breathing resume.
Yeah.
If you do it right, you won't have to submit resumes if you have a good personal brand and you position it in the right places.
100%. So I'm going to ask you a question. It's a leading question. But do you think that as someone who is like maybe media or talking to people at scale isn't necessarily like their thing, it's not something that they're interested in, is it still important for them to think about and develop a personal brand?
Yeah, I think in this day and age, your personal brand is your biggest advocate. Especially for immigrants, who most of our listeners are, you probably don't have a lot of connection in where you are. You probably don't have a lot of the, what do they say, privilege. So you have to grind your way through a lot of stuff. So your personal brand is the way you amplify all the things you do. It's the way, it's what opens the door for you. Because a lot of people, I don't know them, but they kind of get a sense of what I'm about.
Yeah. And
so they feel like they're familiar with you. And so by the time you even have to let's say boss, for work or partnership or for even anything, by the time you reach out to these people when you need them, they already know you.
Yeah.
So it's very important for anyone. The way you approach it is what matters, though. Like for some people, you could build personal branding through writing. You could build personal branding. You don't have to have your own platform. You could be a guest on other people's stuff. You could. There's so many ways you could do it. You're either an extrovert, introverts, loud, quiet. There are ways.
Organically too.
Oh yeah.
So how you interact, like how you present yourself when you're interacting with people, I think that's part of your brand as well.
I guess what's in your opinion, what's personal brand?
So personal.
You gave an example, but
yeah.
Definition.
So in my opinion, it's actually all encompassing. When I was talking about personal brand earlier, I was actually speaking to it from like with LinkedIn in mind and like with career in mind, like very much that aspect. But I believe that personal brand goes beyond just that, like how you present yourself online or how you present yourself on your resume or how you present yourself at work. I think your personal brand is also how you show up like day to day in whatever interactions that you have. And that's kind of where it leads us to the next part of the discussion. It ties very nicely to a person's value. So like your brand is, what you care about, what things you think are important. And all of that shows up beyond just like what you present or what you put out there. It's essentially who you are. So it presents itself as well in just like day-to-day interactions. So if somebody, say your value is, you care a lot about community, you can talk a lot about, community-led initiatives that you're working on as part of your personal brand on a platform like Instagram or LinkedIn. And that's very much so building your personal brand, but also like how do you spend day to day? Like, are you out there volunteering? Are you, do you know your neighbors? Like, it starts at home type of thing, right? And so to me, like your personal brand is like the values that you live day to day. But I think the term is usually used in like a description for like how you present day to day.
Yeah, I think we talked about something similar before where we said you're not what you say you are, you're what you repeatedly do.
Yeah.
And that's what personal brand is.
That's one of my favorite things ever. It's like you are what you do every day type of thing. Yeah.
Because I remember talking in the episode about content. I said I used to call myself a writer. Then I was like, wait, I haven't written anything in a long time. So
yeah, I remember.
I can't really say that's what I am right now. That's not my brand right now.
Yeah. But in a previous episode, actually, when I was just listening to it, I was recording. I was editing the one about books earlier today, and in it we talk about storytelling. I feel like that fits you more than like one medium, like writing. Writing would be one thing, but writing is a way to do storytelling.
Yeah.
Public speaking is a way to do storytelling. And like I said in that episode, you do a lot of storytelling just in your day-to-day interactions. So I feel like that actually is like more encompassing, and it allows you flexibility when you're attempting all of these various ways of connecting with people, right?
I would actually go more meta than that.
Oh, let's go.
To zoom even out from storytelling,
Yeah.
my brand and it ties with my mission, values, as you mentioned, is creating platforms for people to see themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That is everything I do. I've realized that
themselves.
It's to create a platform for people to see themselves. So if I'm storytelling, I don't just write like things that are mainstream or common. It's always from an angle of whether it's like, oh, this is how I failed, so that it can encourage people who have failed at something, or talking about how lessons you can learn as a DJ that you can apply to product management. So that's someone that is a DJ who might now be interested in product management. That's to open the door for them, like, you can do it too.
Yeah, show like a connection between the two.
Yeah, like SEO, it's complicated for a lot of people. So I was like, 3 bosses of SEO, like, break it down. That is very accessible.
Yeah.
So my job, I think my mission is that, which is what the value is. And storytelling is, that's what story. You create a character, you set the stage. The best storytelling lets the audience or the consumer see themselves in it, and whatever I do is based on that.
Interesting. You give me something to think about. For myself, I think it's different. For me, I really want to index on impact. So that's like my big thing. Like, I want to be able to positively affect as many lives as possible. Somebody asked me very recently, actually, how would you describe yourself in like a really short sentence? And I was trying to talk about all like the various projects that I'm doing and like why they interest me and why they excite me, and they're very different from one another. So somebody's like, what ties all of these things together? And I realized that it's impact, and that's like my outward thing, like the thing that I want to impact, like the effect I want to have on the world. But there's also like a personal one as well. So I don't know if that's part of a personal brand, but like there's an outside and an inside. And that's something that I didn't actually realize before. There's a potential mentor of mine who I was talking to who made me think that. So I was telling them, I want to have like a positive impact in the world, whether it's making other people happy, making other people kind of realize their potential, whatever it may be. And then he asked me, but what do you want out of life for like yourself? And that doesn't necessarily have to be part of your personal brand, but I think it's important to understand so that it can guide how you interact with your personal brand, or the way that you edit your personal brand in a way. And for me, it's indexing towards freedom and optionality. Like that's the big thing for me. So the reason it ties into personal brand is I think that if you know what it is that you want for yourself and you know the effect that you want to have on the world, you can put those two things together to use your personal brand to guide you towards your mission. So I'm talking about like 3 different concepts, but they all come together to kind of help you decide what it is you're going to do day to day.
Yeah, I can see that. What I am confused about for your own, personal brand is impact is something that I optimize for as well. Yeah. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's my personal brand. It's more it's what I want to get out of any experience I do. Yeah. So that's my selfish part. What I wouldn't say selfish, internal that you mentioned. For me, whatever I do, it has to have an impact, or I just don't feel satisfied. Yeah. However, that is still not the expectation. That's not the experience I want people to have for it. You know what I mean?
No.
It's not the experience that I want people to get from it. It's not my brand. So like Apple, they have their brand is to simplify everything. Yeah. Coca-Cola, their brand, what's entity? I don't know.
I have no idea what Coca-Cola is.
We all know Coca-Cola. What's the brand?
Have a good time.
Someone tell us. Nike, we know, just do it. Yeah. Red Bull, action. Yeah. Mine is representation. Yeah. That's my brand in one word.
Representation?
Representation. I want people to always feel like they can be themselves.
Okay. I think for me, rather than necessarily just be themselves, it would be maximize themselves.
Okay.
So I think that's
I like that.
That's where it ties into impact. I realize what you were saying there a little bit. Like, the impact part is not just like the impact I can have, it's also maximizing other people's impact in a way.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So in my personal life, I really care like about consistent improvement. And that's something that I also want for others. And I think that's where those two things like tie together. It's like something that I want for myself, but it's also something that I want for you and for anybody else and for the people who are listening to this podcast. And that's part of the reason why I really enjoy working on this podcast. It's because on here we can share things that really help people to find their way. You know? It's
so interesting. We are both trying to accomplish the same thing, but from different angles. So yours is, you want people to be more impactful.
Yeah.
Mine, the reason why I want to have representation, one, for me, is just based on my life story.
Yeah.
I've always never had representation. Whatever I want to do, there's just never been someone.
Yeah.
So, and I've always had to spend so much energy, mental and real energy figuring it out. And I don't want people to go through that. But the other side is the reason why it's now my mission, my goal, my brand and everything is so that if people don't have to spend that energy and time to figure out who they are or if they belong in a room, they can spend that extra time to be making impact.
Doing the thing.
It saves them time. It makes them more effective. Like imagine me, for example, I'll be in a room and I'm like talking to people, a room, 200 people where no one looks like me. I realized before how much time and energy I waste just trying to think, do I even fit in here? Imagine if I didn't have to think of that and I just go straight to like impact.
Right into the point.
Yeah, and I think the world would be a much more creative, exciting, impactful, happy place if people don't have to second guess themselves because there's always examples of people who've done what they need to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think like having examples is a really powerful method for, again, people to like see their potential for real. Because I think if you don't have representation, you might cap yourself out at a particular level and say, I think this is all I can do. But when you see somebody with maybe a similar background or similar demographics to you achieving a particular thing, it gives them that North Star to be like, you know what, I can actually reach for further than this.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. So, how does one go about building a personal brand? I know we've kind of touched upon that, but just be, explicit about it.
Yeah. So we talked about, I think, like the core of it, which is what you do every day is, of course, how you live your life, which I think is the core aspect of it. But I think that's just for you to guide yourself on your day-to-day living.
Know who you are.
Know who you are. But then I think to actually have a personal brand, it needs to be amplified some amount. So, like I said, like you can have a particular impact on the community directly around you, but you can serve way more people if you use some of the platforms that are out there to also continuously share your message. And it's more powerful if you stick to your brand. Like I'm a person with multiple interests, you're a person with multiple interests. So sometimes, we go down different paths and we want to talk about all of those things. But something that I've noticed is that you can achieve more down if you focus down a particular line that you want to, be known for speaking about. And people will take it more seriously, and thus you will have more impact, and thus help your mission way more. And if your mission is to help other people, you're essentially doing them a service by becoming a person who talks about like a particular thing over and over, maybe in different ways, maybe showing different examples of it. And I think that's like a powerful way for you to amplify your message. So the example that I have in mind right now is something like Twitter, for example. On Twitter, you might build a following, and the following is going to be of constituents who are interested in what you have to say because you talk about a particular subject that's important to them. it can be a little bit confusing to them if you then start going down like a different path if it doesn't quite fit that original brand that you're going for. So I think a powerful thing to think about at the very least, and I don't want to gatekeep anybody from like representing their full self, but if you're trying to maximize your impact in a particular way, it's important to focus on like, this is the goal that I'm trying to do, and make sure that the things that you're talking about align with that in some way.
I agree. An observation I've made, that you can also do the one where you are sharing all the things you want to. Yeah. That works as well. But what I've known is if you want to grow fast in terms of your personal brand, stick to one thing that is super precise. However, that doesn't always mean people will stick around that are following you. But if you want to grow very organically, where it's probably slower, but people will stick with you, like you basically would never get canceled. Yeah, that's when you're broader, because people like you for you and not a topic. Yeah, even when you stop talking about that topic, people will just follow you wherever you go. They become a fan of you.
I see that side, but I almost think there might be more benefit in launching yourself like as far as you can with one, and then speaking like having, and we talked about this a little bit, I think it might have been off pod, but if you have like some sort of success in one area, it's so much easier for you to hop to different areas after the fact. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I think like I don't know, this actually would be an interesting experiment to take two identical people and do it both ways and see how it works out. Because I'm starting to, I'm like the example you said, like I want to talk about broad topics and learn something new and change my mind and be able to put that out there and see how it resonates with people. But from the examples that I've been seeing like online on like LinkedIn and on Twitter and stuff, people speak about like one thing like really in depth, like say it was crypto, right? So when crypto was like in trend, somebody would speak about that in very in-depthly. And even though later on maybe they don't believe in crypto anymore, they're hopping into maybe like gaming or something like that. And now they want to talk about that. Because of the thought leadership they were able to build in crypto and the legitimacy, quote unquote, they were able to develop in that, switching over to something else, people trust them to do that. They're like, well, they were really good at this thing and they proved it. I think they can go do this other thing. Whereas in my personal experience, when I'm showing like I have interest in photography, I have interest in guitar, I'm trying to build like my professional personal brand, the people who are interested in those subtopics rarely cross over from one to the other. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's been my experience. So I actually don't know what the answer would be. But it would be an interesting experiment.
I will give you an example of someone who has experimented with that. I don't think they're experimenting, but it's the reality. But just to answer that, first of all, those people who are able to cross over, it's because their personal brand is not what you think it is. Yeah. Even though they are the crypto person right now, that's not the reason they are popular in the crypto community. There's an underlying intelligence or way they do things that when they switch, people still follow them for that thing. Like I know a guy who has been like, he has been like an SEO expert, he has been like a crypto expert, he has been like Rome is an app expert. He's been able to do those things, but I follow him for all those things, not because of any of the particular topic. It's because of how does he learn, how is he able to pick up new skills and quickly.
That's interesting.
How does he become an expert in a field quickly?
So what would you say made you realize that, like, because you probably found out about that person because of a particular topic. Like it's very like you have to follow the person for a while to realize, oh, like I like the way he approaches learning, for example, right? So you need to know him for a little bit. So like how would you recommend somebody show that aspect of their brand when they're talking about whatever it is they're talking about?
Yeah, it's something I started doing a while back. I have seasons for the part of my brands that I show, especially on Twitter. So, well, my brand is spread across everywhere. Like on LinkedIn, I only share my full-time jobs, main updates. Yep. On Twitter, I never talk about my full-time job. Yep. I mostly talk about Notion and SEO. Yep. And even then, I try not to go too deep on any. So the way I talk about it is from an outsider's perspective. Okay. So I don't like, I'm the Notion expert. It's more like, oh, this is the cool things I'm doing with Notion. Yeah. So I'll be talking about all the projects I'm doing, my day job, but I'll be using Notion as the example of how I'm doing it.
Okay.
So even though someone that is in Notion community will follow me because of that, but other people, I noticed they will follow me just based on my general interest.
So on your Twitter, for example, you know, you have interests beyond SEO and Notion,
Yeah.
right? So let's say you wanted to talk about Afrobeats.
Yeah.
Would you tweet about that?
I wouldn't if there is no way. Like, I know my Twitter right now is only, people follow me mostly the SEO, Notion, entrepreneur communities. They're the ones that follow me.
Yeah.
If there's no intersection between any of those things, I won't. So
Right.
if I want to talk about Afrobeats, I'll probably talk about Mr. Easy because he's a successful entrepreneur who just happens to sing Afrobeats.
Yep.
That's what I would talk about. Like, this guy, this is how he's able to use knowledge from the startup community to succeed. He's able to do partnerships. He's able to understand his audience. He's testing things with MVPs.
Yeah.
That would be the way I would talk
So
about
you
it.
talk about it from that initial lens, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you see, that's like what I was trying to say before. Like, it feels like you have to have some sort of initial lens before you can make like a full switch. Like, say you wanted to just talk about the changing dynamic in Afrobeats, or like how it's, you know, how it's having its like renaissance moment and everybody in the world is starting to realize like its potential and things like that. And these are things we've talked about before, things that are your interests, right?
Yeah.
So like, say you want to have those conversations, would it be easier to do it just like right now organically, or would it be easier to do it when you've maximized your potential speaking about SEO or Notion? Do you see what I'm like trying to say?
Yeah. I'm always careful not to be a prisoner to my followers.
Yeah.
Because
that's also that's a heavy.
I don't
key
want to be boxed into anything.
Yeah.
So sometimes, so this is back to the season stuff. When I'm doing a lot of Notion stuff and I'm promoting something, I will be tweeting about Notion stuff intentionally a lot. So then I'm warming the Notion part of my
base.
audience.
Yeah.
Like,
because you know that's what you're going to be doing for a while. Yeah. Okay.
And then when it's like MosCon time, which it will be very soon, I start talking about SEO a lot more.
Yeah.
And like clockwork, the SEO community will gravitate towards me more then. And what I do, as soon as I'm done with the thing, I'll flip it right away. I'll just tweet something that is like completely like left field from what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Intentionally to be like,
okay, we're done with this.
we're done with this now. Thanks for, following this journey. Those are still parts of me, but I just don't want to be like a slave to the likes and following, and it has to be organically me. A concept that helps too, in terms of building your personal brand, I learned it from a movie director, I can't remember the name. Yeah. The concept of one for them and one for me.
Yeah, we talked about that on.
Yeah. So just do one thing that caters to your niche, but then do something that is yourself. So that's how you're able to break out of
a particular niche.
Because people, as much as they're knowing you for a topic, over time they'll start knowing parts of your personality as well.
Well, that gives me a lot of validation for how I would treat my my socials right now, because it's usually just all over the place.
Yeah.
I would just like whatever is super interesting, I'll do it like that. But one thing that I like about the approach that you said is like you have it's still like you'll still have a season of a particular thing. So it's not just all over the place. It's not like one day you'll be tweeting about like Notion, one day you're tweeting about SEO, one day you're tweeting about Afrobeats, for example. One time you're tweeting about podcasting, all in days that follow. You're very intentional about when you're gonna make a switch, and then when that switch also then goes for like a period of time, so you can develop some thought leadership in that area as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something that I think I should do differently, because I do have a lot of varying interests, and I like to do a lot of like research into the various interests.
Yeah.
And they organically, the way it happens to me is day to day. Okay, but like I need to be more intentional with how like I share some of that information, so it's not necessarily like constant context switching. It's more so like intentional switching when the time comes. Yeah,
I think there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah.
Now,
that's why I want to do this as an experiment.
All the things I've been saying, is like you can do the super niche, you can do all over the place, but the real thing is you should be intentional about it. You should set the expectation so that people know why they're following you. Like if you check my Twitter, it says that I'm interested in design, SEO, tech,
Yeah.
you know what you will get from me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tweet about all of those things every day.
At one point, yeah.
But you know that at some point, this guy will get into like design. At some point, this guy will start talking about Notion.
Yeah. I think that you mentioned something important as well that's like actionable in terms of building your personal brand, which is, you talked about the mission statement, right? So having a mission statement, important, you can put it up there as well. But then setting expectations as part of that as well. Like I know on LinkedIn they have the section which is like talks about, and you can put like a bunch of subtopics.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, so you can be like
put that
talks about X, Y, and Z, like, and they're like hashtags almost, right? And I think that could be a powerful method as well as part of you building your personal brand. If you know you want to use this particular channel to discuss particular topics, you can put those topics down, and then it probably allows for a little bit more context switching, even on the day-to-day, because whoever is saying, okay, I'm going to follow this person, is likely interested in one of these topics and wants to hear from you about those topics. Therefore, when you go and you context switch, say day-to-day, you're still in line with the overall mission, and you're not like, essentially you're not putting out information out there that wouldn't resonate with people. Like the people are following you already because they want to hear about those topics.
Before we go on, the example that I wanted to mention was actually one of our guests like 2 episodes ago, Frances.
Yeah.
She has like 2 Twitter accounts. She has a personal one, and then the one for Notion. The one for Notion is growing so much faster than a personal one.
Yeah,
but
and that's
the
like
personal
that power
one,
of niche, right?
Yeah, but the personal one is the one that I tend to like the things she tweets more on there.
Yeah,
because they're more,
it's like more free,
more relatable, more. Whereas the other one, like, it's good, it's great for the brand, and I know it grows faster.
Right.
But it's the human one that we would. That's the reason we're friends. If she doesn't have the other one, we probably would not have been friends. Yeah. Because that was what I really connected to. Because people want to connect to the humans as well.
Right.
And even brands, it's when brands show their humanity, when they show the other things, like Wendy's.
Yeah.
People, they have a crazy good following on, is it Wendy's? Yeah, Wendy's on Twitter. It's not because of their burgers or whatever. They don't talk about any of those things. It's the quirky things and the random things they do. So you can have a brand, but you still have to have your personality behind it.
I agree. I tend to actually engage with people a lot more when they are more free with the stuff that they put out there. Sometimes it's within a particular niche that maybe I initially got to know them about first, but once I'm already like engaged with whatever it is that you're putting out there, I'm interested in whatever else you're also interested in,
Yeah.
And I'm willing to listen to it, and sometimes it's something that I don't resonate with, and then that's it for that particular interaction. But usually there'll be something else as well that I like them for as well, and so yeah, I think that resonates a little bit more with like how my personality truly comes out. It's just varying interests all the time, but a powerful method that I also realized through all of this that has helped me with like the various contexts is the power of humor and the power of examples. So sometimes people just really like to see a good example, and you can share an example even if it's not necessarily directly into like your quote unquote field of knowledge, like your niche. If you share it and it's got like a humorous connection, you can always connect with people via humor. So you might want to post something that seems like really like is authoritarian the word?
Authoritative,
authoritative. Is that what you said?
Yeah, authoritative.
Authoritative?
Yeah.
You might want to post something that's like quite authoritative. But if it's like a departure, I think that's where there could be a bit of dissonance.
Yeah.
But if it's humorous and you mention, and I think you talked about this before as well, not being an expert.
Yeah.
If you show that aspect of it, show a little bit of humor, you can pretty much talk about whatever you want.
True.
And I think that can probably be part of your brand as well, which really gives you a lot of freedom.
Yeah, ultimately, I totally agree with that. Humor always works. If all else fails, just humor.
Just use humor.
Yeah, to tie together what your position on this and mine is, just be like an arrow with your personal brand. Just have an angle that is laser sharp that you use to like cut through, but an arrow doesn't stick at its target if it's just narrow. It's got that little,
curves
outside. Yeah,
he's making an arrow shape in front of me right now.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. Like it goes outwards, that's how it sticks.
Yeah.
You know, it goes in and then it sticks. It's
Yeah.
the other parts of your personality
That's an
that
interesting
makes people
analogy.
stick.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Where'd you get that? That's crazy.
because I used to like play with arrows when I was younger.
That's funny, man. That's really interesting. Yeah, you have your point
Yeah.
that makes the initial penetration,
Yep.
and then you got the rest of it that actually makes it stick.
Yeah. You need
That image
that.
is gonna stick in my mind.
There we go. I hope it
I'm
sticks.
gonna think about that when I'm doing my post.
That will be the artwork for this episode for the personal brand.
Arrow
Some
and
arrow.
a target. I like it.
We have to find a way to make it make sense right off the bat as well.
So how do you maintain authenticity through your personal branding? You know how there's like the algorithm favors people who post a lot, for example, and this is like across all of the various channels that you might be able to amplify your message on. It favors people who post a lot, and so you might find yourself repeating or talking about similar topics even though you don't necessarily want to, just in order to maximize the potential reach of your message. How can you marry the idea of being authentic, not posting just for the sake of posting, but posting because you genuinely think this is going to have a positive effect on somebody else? How do you manage that in your like day-to-day brand management?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if I can answer it very well, but 3 things that comes to mind is, 1, I don't think it's the frequency that you post, it's how effective your posts are. If you post more often, you're top of mind. So yes, that the algorithms will favor you for that reason. And but I've built my own brand in a way that people expect me to take frequent breaks. So like I'll post quite a lot, and then I'll like be away for a while.
Disappear for a bit.
Yeah. So when I go away, I don't feel like I lose touch or anything. People still engage, you know what I mean? I would rather that than I'm just posting things that don't make sense and then people engage less and less. The other part is Mr. Beast. I was watching a video of him. He mentioned that like whenever you think of algorithm, just think of audience. Replace that algorithm with audience, because the platforms really, they design their algorithms based on what they think the audience will be. So in a way, forget the algorithm, think of the audience. Like what would the audience engage in? So if a platform, let's say Instagram, bring out Reels, yes, it's a new program, it's a new feature.
Yeah.
Audience will be using it more because it's new, but which means the algorithm will favor it more. So
Therefore,
if
align yourself.
algorithm comes and goes,
Yeah.
but audience stays, and people's behaviors, preference, interest would always be the same. So as long as you're like focusing on the audience, it doesn't matter what happens with the algorithm, you will always come ahead. That's what I tell people with SEO as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, forget the tactics before you get into what works now.
Yeah.
Just be human.
Yeah.
Think about psychology. What would make someone to click on your article? What would make someone to read it? And then once you've taken care of the basics, then you can start fusing the tactics. So
Okay.
that's the same approach to social media. And the other part, 3 parts.
Yeah.
So the third part is the medium determines the message. So where you're posting is what your message will be. A lot of things I share on my Twitter, I never share on my Instagram. So my Instagram, my personal brand on my Instagram is random. Like today I'm like,
It's actually just you.
it's me, you know what I mean? It's like events I'm speaking, and then I'll be like traveling, and then like random projects I'm working on. Because I know it works on Instagram. It's more people like variety there. But Twitter is more,
About thoughts. And
exactly.
thought leadership.
So then I share that part. Those are still me.
Yeah.
I'm not like a different person, but I just know, back to my first point, know your audience. Go know the people you're serving, know what they like, what they won't like. Like on my LinkedIn, I'm not going to be posting a lot of the music that I'm listening to on like Instagram. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with like all of those points. For the first one, the one where, frequency, like managing your frequency, posting a lot, I found the same thing. So I thought that there would be an issue, like if I took a break posting, and I'm thinking more so right now about LinkedIn, because that's aligned with like what I need to get in order.
You're doing
currently.
really well there right now, though.
And I'm like on and off. Like a lot of the advice that is on there about posting is like post 5 times a week and things like that. And like I don't follow those conventional rules, so I try to keep the things that are truly interesting to me. Those are the things that I'll actually post about. Or if I have a thought and I'm like, okay, this aligns with the other things that I've been talking about on LinkedIn, I'll post it on there. But I won't do it necessarily like Monday to Friday. You know, it's like when I have a genuine thought that I think actually adds value to the conversation that's out there, then I'll post it. And I found that actually works quite well. Like I get like still little engagement here and there. I still got a lot to build, but it's been better than it has been before, even when I tried to like force myself to put something down there. So fully agreed with that point. And with the second point where you were talking about, you know, think of the audience. That's something that I've also noticed works really well, particularly on Instagram. If you know like your audience likes variety, like you mentioned, then you post variably, and you'll notice various pockets of the people that follow you interact with it. So it might not resonate with absolutely everybody, but it's not like you're just servicing a particular group within the people that follow you. You're servicing multiple groups by doing that switching. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like when you post about traveling, you're probably like resonating with a particular group of people.
I know the people, the 10 people that
are going to really like this, right? And then when you're talking about like, you know, projects that are to do with AI, or maybe something to do with tech, or maybe like public speaking, for example, you know your audience there as well. And of course there's going to be people who are interested in both groups, right? But you service almost your different pockets of the followers, you know? Yeah. So I say all that to say, like, I resonate with what you were just talking about.
It's still the arrow thing.
Yeah.
You know, you're still focusing on one thing, one person.
Yeah.
But a part of you still remains across the thing. Yeah. The way I write things are always the same. I could be talking about AI, I could talk about SEO. Yeah. My writing style is always the same. My design is the same.
Yeah.
It's still me in just different. It's just the same essence that powers all of them. So that really is back to what I said.
Yeah.
The real brand is representation, but the way it manifests can be different on a day-to-day. So ways. I think the simpler your personal brand is, the more freedom you have.
I agree with that as well. And I think that's maybe a nice key takeaway for the listeners is like, try and simplify your personal brand to something like, we even got down to like a word, you know, or make like a phrase.
Yours is impact, mine is representation.
So it's like, how do you simplify all the various things that you're interested in, or like the one long mission statement that like very narrowly describes you into something a little bit more simple, and then work around that as well. And I think anybody can do that, like regardless of like the career path you're in, or regardless of what it is that you do day to day. It doesn't have to be like, career might not even be the thing that you care about the most, and that's fine. But like whatever it is that you care about the most, if you try to simplify that down into like something like a phrase, and use that as like your guiding light, it can really just like make this whole personal branding, like personal brand building exercise way easier for you.
Great advice. I would have loved to have that 5 years ago. The downside of personal brand.
We're talking negatives now. Let's go.
So what about, you know, when you're putting yourself out there, you're building a personal brand. What if people start, you know, looking at you in a weird way? Like, what do you think? What does this person think they are? How do you deal with that?
I do think about that before posting sometimes. Like, how am I coming across right now? Am I coming across preachy right now? But I think that can also be part of your personal brand. And I think that's a way that you can maybe deal with that negativity. So like it might not even be real. It might be something that you have made up in your mind. You know, it's not something you can necessarily verify that other people are thinking about you. But it's something that we've talked about before, and we consistently talk about in this podcast, is not presenting as an expert. So for me, the way I get around that is by asking questions. Always like, but what do you think? So if I post something that I'm like, I really think X, Y, Z, and I post and I put the example that I'm talking about, and I put maybe like some stats or something like that, I always try to open the conversation to other people to also have their input on it. And the reason I do that is to open that window. So like within thought leadership, I think I used to think thought leadership meant that you knew everything about this particular topic.
You're a thought leader. You're leading. You're making people think.
You're leading people to think.
Yeah.
And so like you can post an idea, but if you open the door to like opposing views, alternative views, I think that at least this works really well for me, is it gets rid of that basically imposter syndrome, you know, and it's like this is where I got, and but I'm open to learning more, and I always have that little, almost like a call to action. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. The way I've been able to battle that myself is, first of all, no one cares. People don't care as much as you think they do.
Yeah.
And for those who do, by the next day, they already forgot. And also, no matter what you do, it will be cringy to someone. And cringe really just means someone's reaction to something that is uncomfortable to them.
Mm-hmm.
And why is it uncomfortable to them? It's most likely because it's something they can't see themselves doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's on them, not on you.
Yeah.
So if you do something that makes someone cringe, that's not your own cup of tea.
No.
Because the same person that cringed at something, once they build the confidence in a couple of years or whatever, you would regret not having done what you need to do because you were basing your opinion on someone that probably doesn't care about you.
It's true.
So yeah, just do you. Don't even think about anything at all. As long as you're being your authentic self, you know.
100%.
That's all. At least one person is happy. And yeah, be your authentic self. And if you're posting something for fun, post it for fun. If you're posting something to be useful, as long as you know that this will be useful to someone. Yeah. What I post, by the way, a lot of my educational posts or expert posts, they're always after a conversation with someone. Mm-hmm. It's after I already said it to someone. It's always like, oh, I wonder if it will be helpful to other people. Yeah. Because then I know for sure this has helped someone before. Yeah. So it's not
absolutely random.
It's not just bullshit stuff. It's real tested thing. Yeah. And
yeah, I would agree with that. I really like the idea that, you know, A, people don't care nearly as much as you think they do. Mm-hmm. But then B, if people really care, it actually can be a good thing. And I think we talked about that when we were talking about this podcast and like putting things out there and like trying different formats and things like that. Even if you receive negative feedback, like that's actually a good thing. That means people they really care about the message that you're putting out there, or what it is that you're saying. So don't be afraid to post. After you post and like you're, you know, seeing, you know, like this is how people are resonating with it, blah, blah, blah. There's always something to learn there. Mm-hmm. So yes, maybe some of the things that you post might come across quote unquote cringy to other people, but finding that out, I think also helps you determine how you're going to approach the same thing in the future. So everything is like a learning opportunity. So I would think about all of the postings that I like, everything that I post, I consider like a learning opportunity. So I'll go back and look at it and say, okay, this actually led to a lot of conversation. So this is good. This style kind of works. Or this kind of just led to a lot of engagement, but no conversation. So you kind of know, okay, how do I, if I'm, the next thing I'm doing, do I want just engagement or do I want some conversation? And then you take those learnings from before and you apply them to that next thing that you're going to do. Yeah. I think that also helps like with your overall personal brand building.
Yeah, don't take yourself too seriously. Don't expect a lot of things you post will fail. Yeah. And the ones that succeed, you don't even know sometimes. Like I've posted some things before and I'll like wake up and I'll see like all this reaction. I was like, really? Like that only took me like, oh yeah, my most popular tweet. Yeah. It was this, it was like Notion versus everybody. Yeah. It's this thing that I was in a meeting, bored out of my mind. And I was just like, oh, this would be a cool idea. Yeah. I just like Canva. It took me like 1 minute to create. I tweeted. Yeah. I didn't check. Yeah. And boom.
It was working.
It was like blowing up. And same thing, another one. There was a day Google Calendar was down. Yeah. And I just tweeted a Mr. Bean GIF where he was confused. And I was like, every Google Calendar user today. Yeah. And it went semi-viral.
Humor.
Yeah, humor, yeah.
And also relevance, which is something that I don't know we talked about as much in this discussion of personal brand, but a powerful tool. Mm-hmm. So like, if you're talking about current events, again, you're going to be resonating with audience at the time. Yeah. Because the audience is thinking about that same thing. So timing is important as well. But then you're also talking about things that are directly related to, you know, your interests and what you typically talk about.
Yep.
So now you're merging those two things together to like maximize the right time to say what it is you're going to say. And then you added the sprinkle on top with like some humor on there.
Yeah.
And that's definitely going to resonate with people.
I totally agree.
So do you then take advantage of those situations in the future as well?
No, because then it's not back to the main key ingredient, authenticity. It's not authentic to who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not a meme person.
You're
I
not
will
meme
do
lord.
it every now and then, but that's just not me.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, it's like leaving money on the table, in quotes.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you want. If you want large following and you want to be known, you just want to build following. Yes, capitalize on it all, please.
Every time.
But for me, it's I don't want, you know, I like organic things. I like things to come at the right time. I want people to follow me
For the right reasons.
Yeah. Earlier on, you mentioned sometimes you like get scared to post.
Yeah.
I used to before, and I actually used to get anxiety when people I look up to that I really respect follow me, or even like a famous person follow me.
Yeah.
I get like, oh my God, they're gonna be thinking what I post. Then after a while, I was just like, they're following me for me, like me, not. They had not been following before, so the chances they didn't see anything. They just like me, so I'll just be myself. And if you don't like it, like I get so happy sometimes when I post something that I really like, and then I lose followers. I get happy because I'm like, yes, I can be myself now because the fake or the loose connections are gone.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing when you lose the followers, right? Yeah,
because you're closer to your message.
A new direction or something like that.
Yeah,
it just means now you've got an audience that you can post for that is closely aligned to the new direction that you head. And I think that's also an excellent takeaway from this whole personal branding experience is that some people are going to resonate with it, some people will not. Some people will resonate with it for a time, and as you develop it, maybe they won't be resonating with it anymore, and all of those things are okay. And yeah, that's a great way to think about like the anxiety that you get before posting. It's like if you truly think that you're gonna have that, like the effect that you want to have on people, just go ahead and post it, and whatever, come what may, learn what you can from it, but don't be too attached to it.
Awesome. So I guess for us to wrap up on the last top segment, what are the benefits of having a strong personal brand?
I think the biggest benefits that you can get from having a strong personal brand is honestly having a community. So personal brand is almost like community building. So that can be useful in a lot of different ways. One of the most obvious ways is like monetary. Like if you say build up in your example, for example, you know, you've got a Twitter that is mainly talking about Notion. That means you've got a lot of people who are interested about Notion. If you want to sell more Notion templates, now you've got an audience that's already actively engaged and interested in the product that you have. So that's the very obvious benefit.
Have you ever seen me promote any of my Notion templates?
I've never seen you promote any of your Notion templates.
And I make a lot of sales every day because it's my personal brand.
And you do not have to go in there and say, buy this new template or blah, blah, blah.
Nope.
The people are just naturally interested in that. So that's a huge benefit of that is, you know, money. But the other side of things too, I think, is community and impact. So like I mentioned before, I'm indexing towards that. So if your true mission is to have like a positive effect on the people around that, being able to build a personal brand allows you to amplify that message. So if you're trying to, you know, to achieve that, it makes it easier to do that, and you can continuously do it into the future, which is something that is important for me, and that's why I even care about this aspect of life in general. Is like I want to try and maximize my impact, and the way you do that is to have people tuned in, and so like that's obviously a huge benefit as well. And also trust. Like the more you talk about a particular topic, the more you showcase your abilities, the more people trust you. And I mean, you can talk about whether or not people with big personal brands actually deserve that trust. I don't know, but like if you can, you know, build an audience of people that trust you, you can achieve a lot of things together. And to me, again, I think that ties into like the impact situation. But for me, that's important, and it's something that I want to work on like consistently.
Yeah, it's a form of leverage as well,
Yeah.
and anything that gives
Yeah.
you leverage is always a good thing.
100%, man. All right, well, 54 minutes in, I think we have talked a lot about personal brand, and I think there's a lot of like nice key takeaways for people in there. What's one thing that you would like say as advice, maybe like to a younger version of yourself before you started working on this stuff to speed up to where you got to now?
Don't try to build a personal brand. Just be yourself everywhere, anywhere, a lot of times. Just be yourself consistently, because that's how you find what resonates with people. That's why you find what you need to fix about yourself. That okay, it didn't resonate with people. Oh yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. And then you get better. It's personal brand is also a form of personal growth as well.
Yes.
Yeah, the more you're authentically yourself, the more you're putting yourself out there. You get feedback, you get better, and over time, your authentic self has no competition as well. So the more you can be your authentic self and put yourself out there, the more you just stand out. You just, like I said, when you're putting resume, it's not like a competition versus the rest of the other applicants. They just know you.
Yep.
Like companies and people starts creating positions for you because you're just that unique.
Yeah. For myself, what I would tell myself a long time ago would be just share. It's crazy what things people will resonate with, and a lot of the time I think I just did not give myself the opportunity to even be told no by the world. I already told myself no.
Don't never disqualify yourself.
I was just like, you know what, I'm not gonna post this thing at all, whatever. And so yeah, don't do that. I would tell myself to just share my interest a lot more, share the thoughts that I have a lot more, and yeah, allow a space for some of these conversations to be had.
I love that. Also, it's okay to copy someone else initially, but you would always be an inferior version of whoever you're copying. So at some point, you need to find a way to be your own self, even if initially it's not moving as fast as other people. Eventually, you'll get what you deserve. In the words of Naval Ravikant.
That's an excellent note to end it on. That was Foreign Gems, and this was an episode on personal brand, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.